to Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has inaugurated the stadium named after the war veteran Hussein Eid Hamad Tizi Ouzou as part of his working visit of inspection to the province. And the United Nations has expressed its dismay at the issuing of new evacuation orders by the Israeli occupation for the inhabitants of Gaza, underlining that the Palestinians have nowhere else to turn. And at least 29 Palestinians have been killed in a strike carried out by the Zionist Entity against a school in the south of the Gaza Strip. And those were the major developments. Now the full news edition. Good afternoon. President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has inaugurated the stadium named after the war veteran Hussein Eid Hamad, located on the western outskirts of Tizi Ouzou and built according to international standards. The inauguration of the stadium comes as part of the working visit of inspection the President of the Republic is paying to Tizi Ouzou province, during which he will inspect and inaugurate several development projects. On this occasion, the President of the Republic listened to an overview of the major development projects in the province of Tizi Ouzou. On his arrival, the President, accompanied by the Chief of Staff of the People's National Army, Army General Said Chengriha, was welcomed by the local civil authorities and military. He then listened to the national anthem and reviewed the detachment of different forces of the AMP, which paid him the honors. The magazine Al Jaish has said in its July issue that the precursory signs of the new era are clearly perceptible in various fields and at all levels, and their driving force is the youth, to whom the doors have been opened wide to make their contribution to the desired national renaissance. Said Bouazi has the details in this report.
If only the Shuhada who started the revolution with hunting rifles could be resurrected to witness the immense progress made by the People's National Army, ANP, the worthy heir of the National Liberation Army, as the President of the Republic has said, if only they could come back and witness the developments Algeria has made in just a few years and see how clearly the precursors of the new era are perceptible in various fields and at all levels, notes Al Jaish in his editorial entitled Worthy of the Shuhada's Legacy, an era driven by young people to whom the doors have been opened wide to make their contribution to the desired national renaissance, in particular through their startups. This is a clear message that Algeria is counting on its young people, proud of their homeland and fully confident that, thanks to their high level of awareness, determination and creativity, they will be able to place the country among the ranks of emerging nations, as the magazine. Al Jaish affirms that by invoking the cherished memory of the celebration of the 62nd anniversary of independence, it is incumbent on all of us in the face of the various challenges facing us to deploy greater efforts at all levels and in all places, bearing in mind the immeasurable sacrifices made by our illustrious forebears, so that Algeria may live free and proud, so that the people may enjoy the benefits of independence and sovereignty over its territory, and so that its young people may continue to hold Algeria close to their hearts, remain vigilant and eager to put all their knowledge, know-how and creativity at the service of the fatherland to build the Algeria of excellence. Al Jaish recalls that our country regained full and complete sovereignty over the whole of its territory after a grandiose liberating revolution. With the same determination that drove our people in their fight to win independence, the 62nd anniversary we are celebrating this month, and for which they made immense sacrifices, the children of this people are working to preserve this precious legacy of the Shuhada and to hold high this priceless torch. In this respect, the editorial recalls the statement statement by the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, who said that the evocation of our national independence strengthens our determination and enables us to measure the good fortune we have to belong to a country of the greatness and importance of Algeria. This great country, which has always been able to count on its children, even in the worst circumstances, its children who have always answered its call. This country that we cherish and to which we respond every time there is a question of a sensitive and crucial deadline in order to be worthy of it. This anniversary is also an occasion on which it is always incumbent on us, as emphasized by General Saeed Shengriha, Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, not to forget the scale of the sacrifices made by these courageous men who, with very modest means but unfailing determination and will, we hope that these sacrifices will serve as a beacon of light in our quest for greater achievements that are worthy of our army and of the noble constitutional missions assigned to it, notes the editorial. The magazine goes on to say that it is no coincidence that the annual graduation ceremonies for new recruits from the various ANP training structures coincide with Independence Day and Youth Day, as this is an opportunity for our valiant ANP to renew generation after generation the commitment it had made to watch over Algeria and defend it, whatever the cost, as the outgoing promotions proclaim with faith when they take their oath, swearing loyalty to their homeland, thus perpetuating the tradition of our glorious Shuhada with devotion and sincerity.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International and our channel Radio Algeria International, and the Chinese CGT and Arabic channel have held a special symposium entitled Algeria, China's Gateway to Africa, Strategic Partnership and Sustainable Growth. The symposium is aired jointly in the two channels. The symposium's guests, who are specialists in the strategic and economic field from Algeria and Beijing, discussed many files and axes related to cooperation and strategic partnership between China and Algeria, as it's the gateway to Chinese investments in Africa, which has contributed to strengthening cooperation between China and the countries of the African continent. Still with national news, and the Minister of Labour, Employment and Social Security, Faisal Bentaleb, has received here in Algiers President of Organization of African Trade Union Unity, Francis Atwoli. Mariam Bershi has the details.
In a statement to the press, the President of OUSA praised Algeria's efforts and the multi-phased support it provides to African workers through the Pan-African Trade Union Organization. Algeria has always been one of the countries supporting Africa, he said, while thanking Algeria and the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, for hosting the OUSA Congress here in Algiers. For his part, the Minister of Labour, Employment and Social Security said that the visit of the President of the Organization of African Trade Union Unity, OUSA, had enabled him to find out about the efforts being made by the state to improve the social professional conditions of Algerian workers, citing in particular the increases in salaries and retirement pensions, which showed, he explained, that Algeria was on the right path and that it grants particular attention to its workers and their working environment.
It was an opportunity to find out about Algerians' efforts in this field and the care provided to Algerian workers in various areas. At this critical time following the health crisis and after Algeria increased wages by 47%, this meeting also enabled them to find out about Algerians' efforts in the field of social protection.
The Secretary General of the General Union of African Workers, UGTA, Ammar Tekshdout, described the visit of the President of the OUSA to Algeria as an opportunity to discuss African experiences in the field of labour, stressing the importance for African trade union organizations to organize themselves better in order to keep up with developments in the world of work.
We have decided as a trade union to support this organization in terms of exchanges and experiences of workers in Africa, and we are committed to supporting them financially so that this trade union is better in terms of organization. Secondly, 3 seminars will be organized in the course of 2024, the first in Algeria, the second in Kenya, and the third in Uganda.
This was the Secretary General of the General Union of Algerian Workers.
The Minister of Vocational Training and Education, Mr. Yassine Marabi, has paid a working visit of inspection to the Health Accommodation Center of Tamanfoust here in Algiers to check on the progress of the work to rehabilitate the structure for patients of the Sahrawi Republic. During the visit paid in the presence of the Ambassador of the Sahrawi Republic to Algeria, Mr. Abdelkader Talab Omar, Mr. Marabi gave several instructions, including on the mobilization of the necessary human resources from the sector to finish the work as quickly as possible. And member of the Council of the Nation and chairman of the Committee on Foreign and Political Affairs and National Security in the Arab Parliament, Abdelkarim Qureshi, has chaired part of a meeting of the Palestinian Committee on Developments in the tragic situation in Gaza and the occupied Palestinian territories. A communique issued by the Upper House of Parliament indicated that the meeting focused on the worsening humanitarian catastrophe for the Palestinian people resisting the Israeli occupation, which is determined to exterminate, starve and displace them, adding that the participants called for continuing to provide all forms of support to the Palestinians and reiterated their commitment to the two-state solution in line with the principles of the Arab Peace Initiative. The Algerian representative to the UN has called on the parties at issue to the Russia-Ukraine conflict to favor diplomatic means in order to find a solution to the issue. During an emergency meeting on the Russia-Ukraine conflict by UN Security Council, he said the current escalation is in favor of neither side and a commitment to de-escalation is urgent.
As we meet again to discuss this alarming situation on the ground, we still see no signs of a de-escalation. In this context, allow me to share the following comments. First of all, it is essential to give due priority to diplomatic efforts to address the very serious humanitarian crisis in Ukraine in a comprehensive manner. This can only be achieved through a clear commitment by all parties to de-escalation and respect for the UN Charter and international law, in particular international humanitarian law. Secondly, the logic of confrontation has never yielded a solution to disputes. Instead, its place must be taken by restraint, dialogue, and negotiations based on the principles of inclusiveness and a peaceful settlement of disputes. The use of weapons will only lead to more lives lost, including amongst civilians and especially children. This will bring more suffering to the population, it will bring the destruction of infrastructure, and will raise the risks of pushing back a solution to the conflict.
The Algerian representative to the UN expressed Algeria's support for peace efforts between Russia and Ukraine.
Algeria reiterates its commitment to support all efforts aimed at achieving peace and at laying the foundation for a sustainable and peaceful solution to this crisis. Thirdly, the polarization resulting from this crisis is a source of grave concern for Algeria. Indeed, it contributes to further escalation with disastrous consequences for international peace and security, including food security and energy security. Algeria is convinced that multilateral efforts and intensified international diplomatic efforts are the best way to achieve concrete solutions to this crisis. Such efforts will allow to preserve diplomatic frameworks and reach a peaceful settlement in accordance with the purposes and principles of the United Nations Charter and the legitimate security concerns of all parties.
Let's recall that the meeting of the UN Security Council was convened due to the escalation of tensions between the parties at issue to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And to the Palestinian thorny issue now, at least 29 Palestinians have been killed in a strike carried out by the Israeli occupation against a school in the south of the Gaza Strip. According to this source, at the Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis, a strike targeting the gate of the Al Auda school east of Khan Yunis in the south killed 29 people and wounded dozens. The press office of the Palestinian movement denounced a terrible massacre, claiming that it was a continuation of the crime of genocide that the occupation has launched against the Palestinian people for the 10th consecutive month. The United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, has announced that nearly 300,000 of its pupils in Gaza have been out of school for 9 months. And the World Health Organization, WHO, has sounded the alarm about a worsening health crisis in the Gaza Strip following new orders from the Zionist occupation forces to evacuate the city. The details with Majid Mila.
The Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, underlined the seriousness of the impact of these orders on the already limited health services in the region. "There really is nowhere safe in Gaza," he said in a statement, adding that the latest information on the evacuation orders from Gaza City will further hamper the already very limited provision of vital health care. The World Health Organization has reported that key hospitals are out of action. Patients in these hospitals have been forced to evacuate on their own, have been granted early discharge, or have been transferred to other health facilities. The Kamal Adwan and Indonesian hospitals, which are now caring for these patients, are facing severe shortages of fuel, beds, and trauma medical equipment. The Indonesian hospital is currently operating at triple capacity, struggling to cope with the influx of patients. The Al Hulu hospital, located in the blocks affected by the evacuation order, continues to operate but only partially. The Al Sahaba and Al Shifa hospitals, located close to the evacuation zones, remain operational for the time being, although their status is precarious due to their proximity to the conflict zones. In addition, 6 medical outposts and 2 first aid centers are located in the evacuation zones, further straining the medical infrastructure in the besieged Palestinian territory. Dr. Ghebreyesus warned that these essential medical facilities could quickly become unusable due to the Zionist aggression or obstacles to access. The World Health Organization has called for a ceasefire so that medical aid can reach those in desperate need and the wounded can receive appropriate care.
The Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights has expressed its dismay at the issuing of new evacuation orders by the Israeli occupation for the inhabitants of the Gaza Strip, underlining that the Palestinians have nowhere else to turn. The UN body said that on July 7th, the occupation forces ordered civilians in the central areas of Gaza City, including the areas of Tufah and Daraj, to immediately evacuate the area to the west of the city, while asserting that the occupation forces have intensified their strikes to the south and west of the city of the same areas to which they had ordered the inhabitants to move. The Palestinian Red Crescent Society said that its operation teams were receiving dozens of humanitarian distress calls from Gaza City, but that its ambulances were unable to reach them because of the intensity of the Israeli occupation's bombardments. The Red Crescent said that reports from the field in the Gaza Governorate all confirm that the population's living conditions are extremely tragic and that the occupying forces are continuing to target residential areas and endeavor to displace citizens from their homes and shelters. Still with the Palestinian thorny issue, and the Zionist occupation forces have destroyed around 200 hectares of land in the occupied West Bank with bulldozers, the media reported. The head of the Mustafa Municipal Council in Ramallah said that the Zionist occupation destroyed around 200 hectares of land belonging to Palestinians. Said Bougazi has the details.
Pointing out that there were olive trees and vines on this land which was suitable for agriculture, he reported that the Zionist occupation forces had destroyed everything on the land, including the retaining walls and trees, using bulldozers. He also explained that the Zionist occupation forces had used live ammunition and gas to disperse the residents who reacted to the raid. He added that the Zionist occupation forces were trying to evacuate the area in order to control the land of Palestinian farmers. It has also been reported that Zionist forces, which have usurped Palestinian land, carried out a raid near the town of Turmus Aya, north of Ramallah. According to eyewitnesses, the occupation forces who have seized Palestinian land set fire to an agricultural warehouse and wrote on the walls of the Palestinian homes. Since 7 October 2023, the detentions, raids and attacks against Palestinians in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem have increased. In the occupied West Bank and East Al-Quds, 571 Palestinians have been killed in attacks carried out by Zionist soldiers and settlers who have usurped Palestinian land since 7 October 2023.
2:50 minutes Algeria's time. You still listen to Radio Algeria International. And as the Israeli occupation genocidal aggression on Gaza has entered its 10th month, despite the official Palestinian death toll reaching nearly 38,200, a new report from the British medical journal Lancet estimates the actual death toll to be 186,000 or even higher, which corresponds to nearly 8% of Gaza's population. The study pointed out that the death toll is higher because the official toll does not take into account thousands of dead buried under rubble and indirect deaths due to destruction of health facilities, food distribution systems and other public infrastructure. The study said that conflicts have indirect health implications beyond the direct harm from violence, and even if the genocidal war ends immediately, it will continue to cause many indirect deaths in the coming months and years through things like diseases. The Turkish Ministry of Foreign Affairs has said that the discovery of mass graves in the town of Khan Yunis in the Gaza Strip and the targeting of 4 schools over the past 4 days are concrete proof of the Israeli occupation's aim to wipe the Palestinian people off the map. In a statement quoted by the media on Wednesday, the Turkish Foreign Ministry condemned the killing of dozens of civilians by the occupation in a school where citizens had taken refuge in the town of Khan Yunis. And at least 30 Palestinian lawyers have been arrested by the Israeli forces since the start on October 7, 2023, of the genocidal war in the Gaza Strip, according to the Palestinian Prisoners' Affairs and the Palestinian Prisoners' Society. The two organizations stated that legal professionals have long been targeted by the occupation authorities, but detentions have intensified since January when South Africa lodged a complaint before the International Court of Justice against the Israeli occupation for genocide in Gaza. And Brazil has announced that it has implemented a free trade agreement with the state of Palestine, which was awaiting its ratification for more than 10 years as a sign of support for the Palestinian people. The Brazilian Foreign Ministry said in a press release that the agreement is a concrete contribution to a Palestinian state economically viable that can live in peace and harmony with its neighbors. Brazil, which recognizes the state of Palestine and authorized construction of a Palestinian embassy in the Brazilian capital in 2010, has ratified the agreement between the Mercosur trade bloc of South America and Palestine, which was signed in 2011. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International, 2:53 minutes Algiers time, and that's it for our news bulletin. I invite you now to listen to our health magazine, compiled and presented by Mohammed Khatel.